All right, Bardic here, bringing you another Ashes of Creation video. If you do enjoy this content and want to see more of it, please do drop a like and subscribe. I also stream Ashes of Creation content on Twitch if you want to swing by. Before I go into the video today, I just want to say a huge thank you for all the support for the channel. All the comments, likes, and subscribes have been amazing, and I absolutely love hearing all the different opinions. I mean, that is exactly why most of us are here and why I enjoy making this content so much. It is our chance to get involved in the Ashes of Creation development process and help shape this game for the best. I'll be trying to get videos uploaded every Monday and Wednesday morning, as well as the occasional video whenever we get some big news in the Ashes community. If there are any video topics or formats you would like to see, let me know and I'll try to get them added into the pipeline. At the moment, I'm trying to get ahead in the pipeline, so I'm not just working on each video the day before. I also have a new talk show I am excited to announce, hosted by myself, It's Fane, and Super TCG. This will be streamed on Twitch and then posted on its own YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. Thanks so much again, and let's get back to the video. Today we are talking about loot systems. It is one of the biggest causes of drama and most universally controversial topics in any MMO. There are many systems that have evolved over the years, each with its own advantages and disadvantages. We are going to take a look at some of the most commonly used systems for loot distribution and analyze their strengths and weaknesses. Then we will see how each system stacks up in a game like Ashes of Creation. Let's start with basic loot systems that are generally used for smaller groups and are often implemented as in-game options. You have free-for-all, round-robin for non-specific loot, need before greed, generally with thresholds, master loot, and more recently in MMOs, a personal loot system. Whether you like them or not, most people understand these systems and when to use them. However, this might not be so simple in Ashes of Creation. So let's go over each of the methods just mentioned and see how they stack up in Ashes. The free-for-all system is probably the least used system in any MMO. The only time I see it being used is when you are in a group of trusted people and are going to pool everything anyway. For ease of looting, just throw it on free-for-all. Otherwise, it favors the people up front when the enemy dies, and it becomes a mass scramble, resulting in the person with not only the fastest hands, but also the best computer and internet getting the loot. I don't know how many people played Diablo 2 back in the day, but my dad ran a business out of our basement, so we always had faster internet than most. I remember being on a group phone call with my friends while farming, and being like, "Oh my god, a unique ring just dropped!" Because of their latency, no one else even saw it before I picked it up. Now I look on that memory fondly, but I'm sure my friends did not. And obviously modern technology has cut that down drastically, but it is definitely still there. In most MMOs, the most commonly used system is need before greed, but this may actually be the last system to be used in Ashes. No loot in AOC will be bind on equip or bind on pickup, which means in theory, no one needs an item any more than someone else, especially when you can take that loot and sell or trade it for something that you can use. Another important thing to note is that most of the loot will drop as materials rather than completed items. At what point do you consider yourself needing something over someone else? When the dropped item is an upgrade? When the dropped material is the last thing you need to get an upgrade crafted? When you can personally make the material into an item? When the recipe dropped is for your profession? Or when you can sell or trade it for something you do need? Honestly, every single one of these are a valid reason to need something over others, but it comes down to two factors: fairness and accountability. The fairness comes from everyone putting in the same amount of effort for the loot to drop. When you equate drops to a dollar or gold value, and you can use that to purchase the upgrade you need most, then honestly, everyone needs every drop equally. Now the second factor, accountability, is where most of the drama surrounding loot probably comes from. We've all seen it happen with BOEs in other games. Someone rolls need on an item, claiming they're going to use it, and then a day or two later, you see it up on the auction house. In a game where no item is bound, you'll probably see this happening constantly, especially in pugs. Now, a round-robin or free roll system means that everyone has an equal chance at every piece of loot. This is honestly the system that I think will be implemented most in public groups in Ashes of Creation. Over a period of time, everyone should end up with roughly an equal amount of loot. Obviously, there are outliers in anything that is based on RNG though. Even though in my opinion this is the best system, I think it is going to take some serious brain rewiring for many MMO players to adjust. For example, losing a badass tank shield to some caster who's going to turn around and sell it in order to buy something they need is not going to feel very good. Now, personal loot would solve all the issues with accountability and fairness. I've heard plenty of people say they like it in Guild Wars 2, but even more say they absolutely hate it in WoW. I personally hate personal loot. I think it goes against everything a hardcore MMO player stands for. It reduces the need to have a group of trusted individuals you enjoy playing with, it takes immersion out of the game, and it makes it really hard to reward players who contribute the most. I mean, I know the more you contribute, the higher chance you have of being rewarded, but we have all seen or been that player sitting there waiting for that final piece of loot that will just never drop. Now, Master Looter I don't really think warrants much discussion, as it is not really a loot distribution system itself. It is a protection system or check for already established loot rules. It is most often used in a public group with need before greed rules, but the person in charge can make sure only people who actually need it are rolling. I was actually thinking about a potential loot system in which all items while out farming go into a sort of escrow account for the group. And then at the end of the session, players would all get to roll to determine in which order the group takes turns picking items out of the pile. This seems like a good way to distribute loot, and it would also allow people who prioritize certain items to take that over something that is worth slightly more. This system would take some finagling in terms of what happens when you get ganked, where some players leave partway through the farm session. And yes, I can already see arguments sparking over someone trying to convince another person ahead of them not to take certain items. But as mentioned above, all systems have their advantages and disadvantages. Let me know if you would use a system like this. Now let's get into loot distribution for larger groups. As mentioned above, they will use Master Loot, but what system is actually used to make the final decisions? The two most commonly used in MMOs are Loot Council and Dragon Kill Points, also known as DKP. DKP was a system invented in EverQuest that awards points to players for their contributions towards the guild.
Welps! Left side! Even side! Many whelps! Now handle it!
In theory, DKP sounds like a good system. It removes the human factor in awarding loot, and the player that contributes the most earns the most points and gets the most gear. But there are just so many problems that seem to spring up around this system.
That's a fucking 50 DKP minus! What the fuck was that shit?
So, aside from obvious issues, point inflation is one of the biggest problems with the standard DKP system. New players end up feeling like no matter how much time they put in, they will never have a chance at getting loot first. It is a terrible system for fostering new core members. There are a bunch of different types of DKP systems that try to combat these problems, like bidding systems, zero-sum DKP, and EPGP, which has point decay, and a bunch of other needlessly complicated systems. I could do an entire video on the benefits and problems of all of these systems, and if that's something you want to see, let me know, but I'm just going to assume not. The biggest issue I see with the DKP system in Ashes of Creation is how to assign points. In a WoW raiding guild, it can work because everyone contributes in the same way. Show up to raid on time and participate. In Ashes, how do you assign values to different types of contributions towards the guild? In a PvX game, there are just so many different ways to play and contribute that not only is it going to be next to impossible to figure out a fair system for awarding points, but it's also going to be a logistical nightmare. The last commonly used system, barring the invention of a new system, which I could definitely see happening, is the Loot Council system. In this system, a group of guild officers vote on who should receive each piece of gear. This definitely brings a human aspect into the system, which can result in favoritism and hard feelings. This system, however, is often more similar to DKP than a lot of people realize. Most guilds, whether it's public knowledge or not, have some kind of data or spreadsheets they use to help them make informed decisions. Among some of the data I have seen tracked for each individual are hours of contributions, number of raids attended, previous loot awards, and the current item in that slot. This doesn't completely remove favoritism, but it can help keep things accountable. As I mentioned, all loot systems have advantages and disadvantages. At the moment, I am leaning towards a loot council system because when done properly, has the least amount of downsides. I could also see there being a new system or combination of different systems that are used. Let me know what type of system you prefer in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, see you on the next one.